What makes Strung Along such a haunting entry in Tales from the Crypt is not simply its shocking ending, but the slow accumulation of emotional fractures that lead to it. This episode is a study in artistic frustration, and the kind of jealousy that grows quietly until it consumes everything. Watching it again feels like peeling back the layers of a relationship built on mismatched expectations and unfulfilled dreams. From the very beginning, the puppeteer's world is defined by stillness. His studio feels like a museum dedicated to a career that no longer exists in the present tense. Dust-covered props, old posters, and aging wooden figures illustrate a man frozen in time. His interactions with his puppets are tinged with melancholy, as if they are the only beings who still believe in him. This portrayal reminded me of an old friend, who continued polishing his childhood trophies long into adulthood, convinced that acknowledging decline would diminish his identity. When the wife enters the frame, her presence feels like a gust of fresh air in a room long sealed shut. Yet the contrast between them is sharp enough to hint at the resentment brewing beneath the surface. She wants a life that moves forward while he anchors himself in the past. Their conversations feel rehearsed, as if they have had the same arguments so many times they no longer hear each other. I have witnessed similar dynamics in couples where one partner's ambitions outpace the other's willingness to adapt, creating an emotional chasm impossible to bridge. The arrival of the young apprentice injects an unstable new energy into the plot. His bright enthusiasm and natural talent become both an asset and a threat. The puppeteer sees in him a reflection of his former self, and that recognition becomes unbearable. Their scenes together are charged with conflicting emotions: admiration, envy, and a subtle fear of being replaced. The wife's interactions with the apprentice complicate matters further. Her growing attraction to him seems less about romance and more about yearning for someone whose life is still unfolding. She feels seen in ways her husband fails to recognize. These moments are portrayed with a kind of aching realism that transcends the horror genre. Midway through the episode, the tension reaches a point where every character moves as though trapped in a web of unspoken desires. The cinematography emphasizes confinement, framing characters through narrow doorways, behind puppet strings, or reflected in mirrors that distort their expressions. The director seems intent on showing that each character is both observer and observed, performer and audience. As the plot edges toward its climax, the puppeteer's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. His suspicion is portrayed not as sudden paranoia, but as the natural outcome of years spent watching his life drift away. The breaking point arrives in a scene so tense it feels like time itself pauses. The confrontation is violent, tragic, and disturbingly intimate. Watching it, I was reminded of the way people sometimes lash out not at the real source of their pain, but at those closest to them, simply because proximity makes them vulnerable. The finale solidifies the episode's place as one of the series' most memorable entries. The reveal is grotesque yet strangely poetic, tying together the themes of control, artistry, and the fragility of human connection. The ending does not simply shock, it devastates. Every character pays a price for their deception, ambition, or insecurity. What stays with me most is the emotional residue left behind. After the twist settles, the story feels less like a horror tale and more like a tragic parable about the cost of clinging to dreams too tightly. It raises uncomfortable questions about how far people will go to preserve their identity, to protect their pride, or to avoid being forgotten. In its own macabre way, Strung Along becomes a reminder that relationships unravel when honesty is replaced by performance, and when fear becomes the strongest guiding force. It speaks to anyone who has ever worried about losing significance, either in their art or in their personal connections. Long after the lights fade, the characters haunt the mind not as monsters, but as deeply flawed human beings whose desires outgrew the boundaries of their lives.